I've come to the Cathedral city of Hereford and to the main cemetery. I've come in one of the side entrances and I'm immediately struck by this little memorial. It's just the head and shoulders of two figures. I don't see any names. Down beneath on the front here is a little book with a robin on it, and it looks like a curled up cat. Never seen anything like this. Very nice, very different. Looking into the graveyard, it's quite clear that quite a lot of clearance has happened. A lot of stones have been removed. There's still plenty to see. I notice standing there are two Commonwealth Graves Memorial. They do stand out quite clearly in the graveyard. These are those two stones that I saw as I came in. One on the left is 3rd Air Mechanic A. Jordan, Royal Flying Corps, 29th of December 1917. So that's one of the last of the Royal Flying Corps stones you'll see, because in March 1918 it became part of the Royal Air Force. To its right we have Staff Sergeant Major E. Hemingway, Royal Army Service Corps, 1917, aged 52. And a little further back from that is another one, Corporal H.J. Lambert, the Welsh Regiment, September 1915. And as I look across to the Memorial Chapel, three more are standing out, three more war graves are standing out quite clearly. I can't cover them all as much as I would like to. Very elaborate memorial underneath the trees here. It has the figure of Christ on the cross. Beneath that we have God is love and more scriptural texts. But I'm sure it is a memorial to someone who's died, and I imagine their name was on the curbstone. But unfortunately it's too faded to make out the details. Although a lot of the stones have been cleared, this is still a very big graveyard. Stretches away in all directions. A lot of acreage to cover. And although a lot of the stones have been cleared, you can see here some of the problem. The ground is very soft, they sink, stones tilt over, and the stone itself doesn't seem to be the hardest of stones. Here we have an angel looking beseechingly skyward with her hands clasped together. On the base of the memorial we see Miss Elizabeth, the wife of Henry R. Rogers, died 1815, so that's fairly early, aged 55 years. One of the very largest of the monuments here. Try and show you a bit more detail at the top. A lot of carving gone into that. And as we come down, there's more decoration, and all very elaborate here. Now sadly, the stone used for the inscription is very soft, and it's hard to read anything at all. I think it's John Blacker Lyle, but I may well be wrong. But it's a very nice memorial, and it's still standing straight. A very large slab of polished stone, and it's Thomas Meadows, a JP, and he died in 1894. A quite unusual design, and if you can hear a dog in the background, it's in the next field. Seems to be making some yelping noises, but I think they're happy rather than pain. Rather unusual memorial here, very elaborate on top. There is an inscription on the end. There are several names on the side, but on the end here it tells us that the canopy is erected in memory of Richard Cook of High Street, who died 1849, aged 92, but he's not buried here. Quite a number here have warning notices on them saying they're unsafe, and they've been held, at least temporarily, with bits of scaffolding. Not an elegant solution, and presumably not a permanent one. If the relatives don't come and sort out the stone shortly, I've no doubt they'll be removed. And they've certainly had some fun here with the scaffolding. I don't suppose the relatives will come back. I read somewhere that the average life that a grave is attended is 25 years. Sort of just one generation. And then people move on, people die themselves, and the graves are neglected. Of course, the ones that never get removed, the ones that are cared for and inspected on a regular basis, are the war graves. The CWGC has a regular inspection and cleaning process for all of these. This one's Private G.H. Gibbons, Pioneer Corps, 1946, age 42. And the inscription on the base are the words that the family added. This would cost them a small amount of money per letter that was added. Unseen, unheard, but always near, loved, remembered, and always dear. There are some later graves, probably some infilling, although the earliest one on here is 1952. This is quite a large plot for a recent grave. We have Vernon Trevor Bishop, devoted husband of Doreen and daddy of Jacqueline and Paul, 1952, age 23, as the result of an accident. And beneath that we have some other names, 1969 and 1972. A very large slab of stone imprisoned in this very heavyweight fence round it. On the other side in the shade is the names Jane and Francis Richards, who died towards the end of Queen Victoria's reign. This tall obelisk is leaning quite clearly towards where I'm standing, and on the base we see that it remembers a civil engineer who would have been horrified at the footings of this memorial that allows it to tilt. William Davis, CE, civil engineer, 1915. And on the other face, the opposite face, there's a list of their children who died in their infancy. And there are 7 children listed there. The first 3 were buried in a cemetery at Oldham, then 1 at Canterbury, and then 3 here. So William Davis obviously travelled around with his work, But to lose 7 children in their infancy, just unbelievable. This one beside the path stands out with a very clear inscription for Henry Watkins, 1913, and then his wife Alice Gertrude Watkins, who died a lot later. She died in 1951. This one stands out from a long way away with the colourful floral display. And hidden at the back, almost under the tree, is Thomas Fury, 1958. And then his wife and mother died in 1975. Clearly still very much cared for. And then tucked away, partially in shade, are 2 memorials to men who died from the Polish forces. One here for W. Kolcheski, 1940, age 24. And this one, if you can read it with the shadow, Boklasek, pilot, I think, PLT, 1942, age 23. I've come to one end of the graveyard, and this is one of the new sections. I'll have a wander down and pick out anything that catches my eye. Even in the new section, we have issues with stones not being stable and being supported by these scaffoldings and liable to be removed. I think when it happens in a new section, you have to ask questions of the stonemasons who erected these. They didn't put them into firm footings. There's 3 stones here in a row, obviously done by the same mason, exactly the same design stones. It looks like the people's names are Polish, and all 3 are having to be stabilised and may well be removed. Very few of the stones in the new section have anything beyond names and dates. This one is a little different. This is for Perfect Pete, 26 years old, Peter Neil Robbins. And we have images of golf club and ball, a rugby ball, a weightlifter, a motorcycle, and it looks like a boomerang on the right hand side. And we start to get a picture that Perfect Pete was a very active man, a lot of joy in sports. Well, Geraldine and Geoffrey Matthews both have what look like golf clubs to the left of their names, and Geoffrey to the right has a beer tankard. So he was a man that liked a good glass of ale. Donald Joseph Cox, 2008, appears to have a cowboy hat at the top of his stone, and a very decorated grave for a young man who was just 19 years when he died, Daniel James Edward Simmons. On the right hand side, top corner, is an image of someone mountain biking, so that may well have been his love. Further down we have a football and the signs for Newcastle United. Now you'll see in this small section of the graveyard, the council who run the graveyard have put in a concrete base all the way along, almost like a path, and the monuments stand on that concrete base. It gives them a firm footing, and we don't have the problems we've seen earlier of stones collapsing and having to be removed. I wouldn't have thought that it's very costly to just put a length of concrete down to enable these stones to stand like this. I've seen it in other cemeteries, and I'm sure that it ought to be extended here, but in fact it's on very few of the rows here. James Smith, clearly from the images, is very much a man for the horses, his horses. In a separated off area by this hedge is the children's section. And what can one say? Just a mass of colour and graves that are cared for, the children that are missed. The plaque tells us that he was created by Linda and David Dorr, whose daughter Natalie was stillborn in 1990. Just one taken purely at random. Russell James Jenkins, 88 to 2002, so 3.5, nearly 4 years old. A courageous little man who touched so many hearts with his special smile. Another small section. This is the Jewish section. Just 9 graves here, but quite a number of them have the Star of David on the memorial. This one to Joseph Collard of Belgium, Israel and Wales, underneath Shalom. Behind that is David Stewart Springer, musician, husband, father, grandfather and brother. There is an area where there's some 40 memorials to those that died in wars. You will notice that most of them have the slightly curved top, but on the right hand side here it's a different shape, it's more conical. These 4 graves are for members of the Polish forces, and this one off to the side stands out. It's got a script on it. It tells us that it's Ghulam Muhammad of the Royal Indian Army Service Corps, 1941, age 22. Well, I'm going to come to a halt on this one, the Hereford Cemetery. It's well worth a visit, and Hereford itself is an excellent town, wonderful cathedral. So do come. Till the next time.